guys? We're live. You were listening and watching the Charm City Sideline podcast. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 9:35 p.m. We got a late episode tonight, but we're going live anyway. Today is a Q&A episode, our week 4 Q&A episode. You guys submitted some really good questions this week. So we're going to get right into it. First one, I feel like this was a good question to start with. It's from Nate.Chan. How we feeling this week, guys? Zach, what you got?
I'm feeling uplifted. As someone going to this next week game, I'm like no longer a sad sack of depressed rocks. Like it's kind of like a whole different spirit is lifted. I think even all the talk shows and every news article that I've seen is just kind of like Ravens dismantle Cowboys. Like everything is just talking about how we really whoop their butt and just really slow down in the end. It's honestly nothing about giving up the big lead. It's nothing about being slow in the second half. It's all been this impressive win in Dallas, and they have a big test next week. So I'm feeling not 0-3. How about that? I think that's a good answer.
Yeah, I agree. It was good to see the Ravens finally get back in the win column this week, man. We desperately needed it. We had a big challenge down in Dallas, and the boys went down there and handled business. I know towards the end it got a little scary, but at the end of the day, we got the win, and we got a big, big test this week. So I'm super pumped for it. It's gonna be a big time matchup. I think all the eyes of the NFL are gonna be on it, and hopefully our boys can come out and handle business at home.
Yeah, man. I think all three of us, and I feel like this was, you could predict this, but we're all feeling a lot better a couple days removed from that second half of that game on Sunday. And also, man, Jaden Daniels taking down the Bengals last night, 0-3 in Cincinnati. And now they are playing Andy Dalton this week. So if Andy Dalton sends the Bengals to 0-4, that would be pretty crazy. Got a comment here from Christian. Love from Australia, boys. Yes, sir. Appreciate you being here, Christian. So we'll get into the next question here. Kind of two questions that go together. This is all about John Harbaugh here. One's from Garrett Heathcott. The other one's from Pastor Riss AACCC. They're talking about Harbs. One says is Harbs on the hot seat, and then the other question is, do you think we can win a Super Bowl with John Harbaugh? Dawson, we'll kick it to you. What are your thoughts here?
Oh man, John Harbaugh, the victim of all the hate lately and all the crimes within the Ravens flock. But if you're gonna ask me, I don't think we can still win a Super Bowl with John Harbaugh. I'm not gonna say it's completely out of the realm of possibilities because obviously we have a two-time MVP at quarterback and we have a star-studded team. But time and time again, most notably 2019 and 23, we've seen how great of a team you can have in the postseason, or I'm sorry, the regular season. And once you get to the postseason, you could fall flat on your face. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good your team is. And this goes for regular season games as well. If you don't have great coaching and you don't have guys who can make adjustments time and time again, you see what happens with all these blown leads we've had in the fourth quarter and stuff. So, I don't really got to say much because we've seen it before. But, if you're going to ask me right now if I truly believe that the Ravens can and will win a Super Bowl with John Harbaugh at the helm, I'm probably going to say no. But, at the end of the day, you have a great quarterback who can carry this team, and he's done it before. So you never know what can happen. My confidence level isn't great with John Harbaugh, I will say, at the current moment, and I don't think it is with many Ravens fans. But we'll see where the season takes us. We got a big test this week, and they have to respond. They can't get punched in the mouth this week at home because that would be really ugly for this team, and obviously our head coach at the realm of things. But it's going to be interesting to see how the season plays out because we're not used to a 1-2 start. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team responds and kind of fights their way back into the playoff circle. And hopefully they do, man, or else it could get ugly in Baltimore.
To first answer Garrett's question, is Harbs on the hot seat? The seat's like mild. I mean, it's not like it's out of the question. 1-2 is obviously not the best possible start. If let's say we drop like the next 3 games just because we've choked some leads or whatever else, I could see a world where Harbs gets let go. But on the other side, Pastor Isaac's question, like, yes, it's possible to win a Super Bowl. Yes. I think a lot of teams would give up an arm and a leg to have John Harbaugh as the head coach right now. And I think we just have to realize that we have a team that's not playing up to their full speed right now. And it's definitely possible to win a Super Bowl. I'm just not confident in saying that right now. I think we have so much to iron out. And before we really get to that point, I'm not confident in really pushing the chips in yet.
It's really interesting because both of you guys make good points. You know, Zach, what you said about a lot of teams give it an arm and a leg to have John Harbaugh, like that's so true. If he were to be let go and wanted to continue coaching, he would be hired in a day. With that said, it gets to a point where you're not getting over the hump year after year. And I felt like, you know, we talked about this with Sutton last week from the Purple Rain podcast. And he was talking about how last year we all said, you know, we got to get to the AFC Championship or else, basically. And we did. So he made the jump last year. The whole Mike McDonald thing caused a lot of talk about whether we should keep him, move on from Harbaugh. So I would say this year, and I feel like you guys kind of agree with it, it was kind of like the feeling going into the season is like, okay, we got to make the Super Bowl this year. Like that's the next step. And I think it'll be interesting to see if that happens. We talked about, you know, maybe if we win 2 playoff games, you know, we're okay with him sticking around. I think it's just going to be hard to say right now. But I don't know. If he's on the hot seat, I would say, you know, I feel like I would guess Steve Bisciotti's having some thoughts. You know, I don't know if he's necessarily on the hot seat right now, but I think this is definitely the first time in a while where it might be being talked about within the organization.
I want to make a point because, like, we're talking about like getting over the hump, as in winning the Super Bowl, going to the Super Bowl. And there's actually an in-division thing that's kind of happening right now. Mike Tomlin's gone, you know, 500 or better all of his time. But they constantly are like, you know what? We'll keep you again, Mike. We like being right here because we're really close to this next step. And it hasn't happened. For us, we can at least hang our hat on the fact that Harbaugh has delivered really quality seasons year after year. If not, it's because of a health issue or whatever else. And us as fans are putting Harbaugh on a really hot seat that probably isn't that hot. Like if Tomlin were to, let's say this year, even though they're 3-0, if they were to this year go under 500, does that mean they let go of Tomlin? I don't think so. So if Harbaugh has one crappier season, I just don't think they're willing to give up on him. And I think it's a family thing. You know, he's such a big part of the culture. And I see it as kind of like that, like almost giving us a reality check of like, we almost need to see that he's getting so close. And if this is just the NFL, this is Patrick Mahomes and his league. Like I think we need to all take a step back and see that he's giving us quality seasons. It's just not really to the final destination like we're hoping.
Yeah, that's a good point, Zach. I mean, obviously, John Harbaugh is a great coach. And like Brad mentioned, if he got fired or removed from the Ravens, the dude would have a job within 2 hours. Like, it's just, he's a very well respected, top ranked coach in the NFL. And he delivers quality seasons almost every year. God forbid 2015 or any of these other weird seasons where injuries hit him and all this stuff. But year in and year out, you know what you're getting from John Harbaugh. You're going to win more games than you lose. You're going to make a playoff push. You're probably going to make the playoffs. Your culture is going to be established. Your team's going to love him. Your team's going to play for him. And there's going to be a lot of respect around the league to Baltimore. I mean, that's what you're getting from John Harbaugh. It's a great coach. However, we're in year, 7 now of Lamar Jackson, and we have yet to even appear in a Super Bowl. And I think it's hard for us to fully grasp it because we've seen Patrick Mahomes come into the league 1 year before Lamar and already win multiple Super Bowls and have this amazing track record of success so fast in the NFL. And he's really the only quarterback that has done it. You know, there's not another quarterback in the NFL right now that has done anything like that. So I think part of the reason, and a major part of the reason that John Harbaugh takes a lot of heat is because, you know, we haven't been to the big game. We haven't won the big game. And we have this star 2-time MVP quarterback that is all you can really ask for to even appear in a Super Bowl. So, yes, Harbaugh is a great coach, and he delivered us a Super Bowl. He's delivered us plenty of success in 16 years here. However, I feel the time has ran out. I feel like the NFL has passed him as a head coach. I think that the NFL is 100% trajecting in this way where it's the newer, younger, offensive-minded head coach nowadays that are finding this routine and success. Um, I love John Harbaugh. He's been great, but I feel like he hasn't adapted and hasn't adjusted to the new NFL. And I feel like it's past him, along with several other veteran head coaches there is right now, like Doug Peterson to mention. Um, I think that the Ravens would very, very much so benefit by unfortunately cutting ties with John Harbaugh. Not right now, but after this season, if they don't go to the Super Bowl and win it, is what I would say. And going after one of these younger offensive coordinators that are going to be, atop the list to become the next head coaches. I think the Ravens would benefit from that, and I think that would put them on the right track to hopefully go and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's a comment here from Don. Tomlin, better coach than Harbaugh. I just wanted to bring it up because it's interesting. Me and a couple of my friends who are Steelers fans talk about all the time how they are so similar. And that's just kind of funny to me. And they've both been there since basically the same. I don't know if Tomlin was hired right on 2008 or right around there. But, yeah, man, Dawson, I agree with what you said. We all want an offensive coach. That's the way that the league is shaping now. And, like, the Eagles – parted ways, whatever you want to call it, with Doug Peterson, like a few years after a Super Bowl win. Like you can move on from coaches, quarterbacks, receivers, whatever, while they're still good and winning you games. Like it doesn't have to be because they're failing. You can just want a new start. So that's kind of my final opinion on that. But we'll get into the next question.
I'll say real quick too.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're not fans of them, but the Cincinnati Bengals appeared in the Super Bowl in 2021. And look how fast Zach Taylor is already on this hot seat or, gaining or losing trust from the fan base and the team and stuff. It's like the NFL quickly changes, man, year in and year out. That's why the NFL is the best sport out of the main four because it's the king of all sports. And every year you truly have no idea who's going to fall and who's going to emerge. So the NFL is a quickly changing game. And, who knows? John Harbaugh could stay for another 4 years or he could be fired in 2 weeks. You never know with the NFL. It's a crazy league. And I'm kind of nervous to see how this plays out for Baltimore.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. So some news came in yesterday evening. The Ravens are bringing back Yannick Ngakoue. Yannick Ngakoue, we traded for him in 2020, for those of you who might not remember. He had 5 sacks in 6 games when we traded for him, and the rest of the year only had 3 sacks. So it didn't go very well with some of the other Ravens, midseason trades going very well. Marcus Peters, Roquan Smith. But we have 2 questions here, one from Alex Warmby and one from Antonio Will. How do you feel about Yannick being signed to the practice squad? And also, how do you think Yannick will fit into the rotation? Zach, we'll start with you.
For Alex's first question, like honestly, I think this is the perfect signing. Like we kind of talked about, maybe a lot of podcasts have talked about the Ravens getting a veteran edge guy, and this seems like a really good fit. Like Yannick was pretty vocal about maybe not being in the right scheme previously in his last time with the Ravens. And maybe this time around, he sees something different with Zach Orr. And really right now with our pass rush getting after it, they've been putting up good games. Maybe not perfect, but really kind of a athletic, stronger piece like Yannick, who has definitely shown dominance in the past. It gives me Jadeveon Clowney vibes. Like I'm looking forward to this. I'm really excited. I hope he plays Sunday. I think I don't necessarily know if he were to fit in the rotation really quickly. I think they still have a lot of young guys that they're really confident in, but I definitely see him getting some snaps. We're going to have to get after Josh Allen and Burrow and Daniels and Baker in a few weeks. Like it's a lot of guys that are going to be running around, and Yannick is definitely going to help.
Yeah, I was very intrigued and caught off guard, which I think the whole Ravens flock was, by bringing back Yannick, which, by the way, is it Yannick or Yannick? I thought his name was Yannick.
Yeah.
Either way, it's not important. I liked Yannick. I've always liked Yannick. I've always kind of had a soft spot for him. He's been pretty consistent throughout his entire career. It didn't work in 2020 when we traded for him at the trade deadline. He came in from uh, having a good run, and he kind of just fell off in this Baltimore defense when we traded for him. But that was in the old system, so times have changed. We got a new defensive coordinator, got a new system over here in Baltimore, and who knows? Maybe it's something he can come in and thrive. The Ravens have a very good track record if you look back in the last 5 years from signing these veteran, free agents, and they come in and have a career resurgence. I mean, you can go on and on. Justin Houston, Devion Clowney, Ronald Darby, Arthur Mollett. I mean, you can keep going. All these guys have come in and they find, this little resurgence late in their career, and they're a key contributor down the stretch. And of course, I couldn't forget Kyle Vanoy. But I think Yannick, there's nothing to lose with the signing. You bring him in probably for about $12 and you put him on the practice squad. He gets to acclimate and kind of get up to speed with the system. And then you throw him out there as a situational pass rusher. And the cool thing with Yannick is that he's more of a pure pass rusher rather than dropping back into coverage. I mean, he just goes right after the quarterback. And the Ravens pass rush has very much struggled late in games with getting to the quarterback. So hopefully this is a situation where we can bring Yannick off the sidelines late in the game and we can just drop him right towards the quarterback and he can just apply pressure and be a game wrecker. And he don't need 2 sacks a game, but if he can come in here and apply pressure and get this defense to actually get some pressure going on late in games and we need it the most to end these games, it would be fantastic. I mean, to me, it's a low risk, high reward signing. And to me, there's nothing to lose in the situation. If he doesn't work out, then oh well, he's gone. But if he comes in and has a few sacks this season and, he's one of those guys that can kind of revive his career and really help this Baltimore defense when it needs it the most, then it's a win-win for me. So I think he'll fit in, like I said, as a situational pass rusher late in games. He's not going to be a starter, and he's obviously just a pure pass rusher. So hopefully they just send him towards the quarterback late in the game, and he can wrap it up.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making a signing like this. And you talked about the track record of Ravens signing defensive veterans in August and September. It just works out every single time. And yeah, man, Wink was the DC in Baltimore when Yannick Ngakoue was here. So, like you said, guys, completely different regime now. Went to McDonald now, or so. You know, after 2020, he still had a double-digit sack season with the Raiders. Played all 17 games. Then in 2022, he went to Indy, 9.5 sacks in just 15 games, and then last year with the Chicago Bears, 4 sacks, but only 13 games. So still productive, only 29 years old. So definitely something that is interesting. When I saw the tweet from Adam Schefter, I thought it was one of those fake accounts, honestly. I
did too.
I
did
didn't
too.
think the Ravens actually had brought him back, but I guess Ravens were interested in having him back, and he also was interested in coming back. So I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he plays this weekend, how many snaps he gets, all that good stuff. Going into the next question from Jason Harmon, 311. Why does it seem like the Ravens take their foot off the gas when they get a comfortable lead? And he adds at the end, run it up, run the score up. So, Dawson, what do you think about that?
Man, Jason Harmon, I really wish I had an answer for you, and I'm going to sit here and tell you I don't. I truly do not understand why the Ravens do this. To me, when I think about it, there's no logical explanation for this conservative play style that the Ravens tend to get into late in the third quarter into the fourth. I do not understand why they do it, because in the NFL, man, you see, like I've said, how fast things can change, and leads don't mean anything in the NFL unless you're up 35-40. But I don't know. I truly do not know why the Ravens do this. Um, You saw what the Bills did last night to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They just kept their foot on the gas pedal the entire game and never let up. And the crazy thing is I feel like, if you look years and years ago when Lamar was first coming into the league, his first couple seasons when he really established himself as a starter, I feel like when we started blowing out teams, we would win every game by like 40. Like like the 2019 season, man, we put it on teams and we never gave up. Like I remember that Rams game, the Jackson 5, I'm pretty sure. That game was just absolutely lights out from the start to the finish. Like we just never even blinked. It was crazy. And I feel like in the last couple of years, especially the last 2 or 3 years, that's completely changed. No lead is safe in Baltimore when we had the lead. And we saw it with Miami last season. We had what was it, a 35 to like 14 lead or something like that, and we lost it in one quarter, which makes zero sense. Um, so, Jason, I wish I could tell you why the Ravens do this. I truly cannot tell you why they do it, and I really hope they don't continue to do it because that's not what a winning team does, and it's going to hurt us down the line in a game we really can't afford it if this keeps up. So, I agree. They need to just score, 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 run it up, run it up, run it up when they can, and that's what it looked like it was going to happen on Sunday in Dallas, but unfortunately, that's not the case. But it'd be pretty cool if they could do it this week against Buffalo. But I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you.
I don't really have the perfect answer either. Like, I don't want to put it towards like, we talked about like Harbaugh and kind of being a different decade of coaching, maybe letting off the pedal. And I don't know. I hope it's nothing like that. I hope it's something where Harbs is still preaching that we have to play a perfect game for 4 quarters. This last game was kind of different. Like I can see us talking about it if we're discussing the Raiders game, but the Cowboys game was a little different. We had the blocked field goal, or not blocked, just a missed field goal well within Tucker's range, which just sucked. That was an immediate dagger. That gives, a sideline hope immediately, like quick little shot of adrenaline. Like, oh shoot, okay, the freaking Hall of Fame kicker's not making crap today. Let's go. And then they have a touchdown drive right after that. I mean, you freaking can't get an onside kick. This is basic football stuff. Like you can't allow stuff like this. And if we just get that onside kick, the game is well over. Like there's zero chance they can come back in that game. Even if we go 3 and out right there from 3 runs, there's let's see, hardly any time left. I mean, maybe like 10 minutes instead or less, maybe 8 minutes, and 8 minutes for 3 drives is not possible. So, it was weird this week. It was really weird this week, but this was a lot of weird events that had to take place for it to happen. I just don't see us doing that again. We're a very disciplined team usually, especially with the penalties too. That kind of kills us. I think we clean that up, and I don't want to be like this guy, but I could see us really getting off to a really quick start against Buffalo, especially at home, blackout in the bank. I sure hope it happens, but I'm not. I could see us very motivated.
Zach's the good luck charm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hope so.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. To just harp on more of what you guys said, something that I've noticed is that this never really happens at the end of seasons or like the second half of the season. I can't really remember Ravens blowing leads. It always seems like a September, October home game, 1 p.m. type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be, lack of preseason play. I don't know what it is, but it does not happen in November or December. It really seems like we pull away later in the season. Lamar, after this game, in both his interviews with Tom Rinaldi on the field and his post-game presser, he was really talking about, we need to finish. We need to keep our foot on the gas. Like you guys mentioned, it's a little bit harder to assess when they recover an onside. I feel like when a lead is blown, you can put a lot on the offense. But you really couldn't blame the offense in this one because of that recovered onside. Like besides that, there was just one drive that failed. And actually watching film within the past couple of days, that 3rd and 5 that Lamar missed to Andrews, Bateman had a touchdown on a backside slant.
He was wide open.
He just Andrews was the first read, so it's
Wasn't that on Trayvon Diggs too?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oof.
Bateman put him in a blender on that play.
But Andrews was the first read and Lamar threw it, so it's not like he missed it or anything. It just wasn't in the progression yet. One more thought on this. It's always like the Ravens made 18 mistakes, and if they made 17, they would have won. You know what I mean? And I feel like this Cowboys game, maybe that extra mistake would have been Zay Flowers drops that pass on third down, or Lamar gets sacked, and they were clutch, and they held on to it. But to answer the actual question about why do they do it, I mean, it kind of makes sense from a standpoint. Like, let's say you're playing Madden against your friend, and you're up by 30. You don't want to start throwing pick sixes, right? You're probably going to start running the ball and try to hold on to that lead. So it's definitely a balance, right? You need to find the balance of not throwing 2 pick sixes in a row and also just not taking knees, essentially. So I think that they need to work on that. You guys have any other thoughts?
I understand that, Brad, but when you're running an empty backfield, empty set on 1st and 10 when you have a 10-point
That
lead,
was stupid. That was stupid.
that is when I have an issue. When you
Especially
don't
with
even have
the O line that you have.
That's what I'm saying. You can't like the play calling is a absolute abomination in some of them situations, and it's like you can't run an empty set on a 1st and 10 when you have a 10-point lead and you're trying to kill the clock. Like you can't become predictable. And
That's a
then
really
if
good
it's an
point.
incompletion, the clock's not running. So that's what I don't understand. The play calling as a whole kind of joins into that. But I do want to say, I think we all see this. It's weird because when the Ravens make a mistake early on in the game, or just whenever their first mistake of the game happens, I feel like after that, the team just loses hope and confidence, and the mistakes start piling in quantities. I feel like if we go out there late first quarter and Tucker misses a field goal, from there, we already know what's in store. It's going to be penalties. It's going to be another missed kick. It's going to be a fumble. It's going to be an interception. Like, it's just, I feel like when issues start happening, they start happening in quantities and they start stacking. And I don't understand why, because that's when you shoot yourself in the foot and lose the game. Um, I know it's all like freak of nature things. Like, I don't know what's going on with Tucker right now. I don't know why he's missing these field goals, and I hope he cleans it up. I don't get it. I don't know how they recovered an onside kick against us. That doesn't make any sense either. So it's weird to me because when we do blow these leads, like Brad mentioned, it's always like the one mistake. If it didn't happen, it would have never happened. And the Ravens can make 25 mistakes in a game or have 25 penalties, but if they only had 24, they would have won. They would have lost. It's weird how it works like that, but it does, and we see it a lot.
It's like, oh, little mistake here, it's fine. Little mistake here, it's fine. Another little mistake here, and then there's that one last one that you're like, oh, it's not fine anymore.
Real quick, I don't want to get way off track, but the
Mhm.
penalties are really, really starting to irritate me. We're the most penalized team in the NFL right now with, I think, 31 through 3 weeks of football. That is horrible. I mean, I think the second closest team's at like 26. Um, we're just undisciplined. It's bad, dude. We're just undisciplined right now. We're not playing clean football, and it's going to cost us. And I hope they clean it up. But I don't understand why holding is a 10-yard penalty in the NFL. That's all I want to say real quick. Holding should not be a 10-yard penalty, but we'll roll into the next question. But penalties have to be cleaned up. It's costing us a lot of points, a lot of yardage, and it's not setting us up for success. And I know a lot of the penalties have been very wishy-washy with whether it could be called or not, but at the end of the day, it does not matter. The NFL officiating is going to call them. So hopefully we clean that up and clean it up soon.
Yeah, voice crack. Jeez. Yeah, penalties been a big issue this year. Question from Antonio Will. Second question from Antonio Will. So shout out to you.
Let's go, Antonio.
Zach, we'll start with you. Talking about Zach Orr, how would you grade his performance so far this season? Let's hear a grade from you, a letter grade, and then your thoughts on that.
I'm gonna give him a C+. I'm gonna be a little harsh. Rush defense really really bumps this grade up for me. Like, I'm thoroughly impressed with how we're handling the run. It's going to be awesome to see Josh Allen and Cook next week as well, because that's just going to be a perfect. They've been dominating so much that they haven't even needed to really get Cook going late in games. Like it's just been like, all right, let's ding it down. He just gets a screen. Oh, 22 yards. Cool. Let's keep moving. Like it's, dude, they're cooking right now. And it's unbelievable. That was off track. Zach Orr's performance, C+. I'm down in the dumps right now about the pass defense. I think we were so high on the secondary going into the year, and to see it like this is just weird. I think I've said that before in a different pod, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. We've talked about McDonald in the past whenever he got off to a really crap start and then really amps it up in the second half, and then even his next full year of being it was just fantastic. So I'm gonna hope that it's something with that. Like maybe we're getting like such a basic defense out there right now that we're eventually going to get into exotic looks and let Zach Orr really cook and let the defense really flex its muscles. But as of right now, I give it a C+. It's been a little better than I thought it would be, but like it's not ideal.
Yeah. If you would have asked me after the Dallas Cowboys game, I was probably a little more optimistic after the game than I am right now. As the last couple days have gone on, I've kind of grown a little more concerned over this defense as a whole. Huge test this week. You're going against a quarterback who could throw the ball pretty much across the state of Maryland. So it's going to be interesting to see how we go up against Josh Allen. And it's not like he has great receivers, but they make stuff happen. But through the first 3 weeks, I think, are literally 32nd in the league in passing yards allowed, and that is just unacceptable for a Baltimore defense, especially when your secondary, from the looks of it and on paper, is stacked. You got multiple solid quality corners, Pro Bowl corners, if you would, and I mean safeties. You're stacked, but they're getting exposed, man, and if you really look at it, a lot of those yardage, or a lot of those yards, I'm sorry, and a lot of that yardage overall, I feel like is coming late in the game when we are blowing these leads and they're getting 20-yard dumps or 20-yard just chunk plays one after another. And for some reason, I don't understand why that's such a, you know, cowardice defense we play in the second half when we have a lead. We just like completely back up and just let them get 20 yards after 20 yards. And that's why dudes like Gardner Minshew throw for 300 on us. But it's not like, fresh out the gate, we're getting exposed play after play through the first and second quarter. Like the defense has been pretty legit in the first half, even against Dallas. I mean, we held Prescott in check for what it's worth. But in the second half, they exploded, and that's where all those yards come from. But overall, if you're going to ask me, it's not like this defense as a whole is garbage. Like the run defense has been spectacular and the pass defense has been terrible. So, it's growing pains. We saw it with Mike McDonald. I'm a broken CD player. Mike McDonald, when he first started in Baltimore, I mean, everybody wanted him removed. He was awful and the defense looked lost and people were saying it's a wrong hire. And then obviously you see what Mike McDonald has become now. So, it's 3 weeks. I'm not going to sit here and freak out already and say it was a wrong hire. It's 3 weeks. It's his first ever defensive coordinator gig. The dude is young. I mean, the dude could still be playing in the NFL right now. And, it's growing pains. So give him time to adjust. He'll come into his own. These defensive guys will step up and be the leader and get this defense right. And I think it all starts this week on Sunday night against the Buffalo Bills, who are the best team in football right now. There's no sugarcoating. It's the best team in football coming into Baltimore this week, and it's going to be an absolute shootout, I think. So hopefully the defense can respond this week, and hopefully this pass defense can get rolling because, we're getting pressure on the quarterback. We're getting to the quarterback, which is nice to see. The sack numbers aren't fantastic, but they're not bad at all. The run defense has been spectacular. It's really just this pass defense right now as a whole. But before I end this answer, I do want to shout out Marlon Humphrey. I know there's a lot in the media right now about Marlon Humphrey and he's a diva or whatever you want to call him. He's a podcaster and he shouldn't, be doing anything but focusing on football. But he's having a fantastic start to the season. And this is the best Marlon Humphrey we've seen in the last few years. So I want to shout out Marlo. He's playing a great season so far, and I cannot understand why people are overlooking that.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I would say in the secondary, Humphrey and Stevens have both been good, and then safety play has been questionable. Linebacker play has been questionable in terms of coverage.
That's where I think there's a big issue right now is over the middle of the field, the linebackers, man. Roquan and Trenton Simpson, they're not making a big impact right now. I don't know what's going on with this defense. Hopefully they can clean that up, but the middle of the field right now is getting exposed big time.
The touchdown to, I believe, Turpin, that was the Cowboys' final touchdown of the game. It was just Ravens are in Tampa 2, and the Cowboys run this like flag concept. So it's like the slot guys go like this, and then someone comes in through the middle, and both outside safeties have to pull those flag guys. And Roquan probably should have carried the guy up the middle, and he didn't. That's something where that's probably just a new DC thing, to be honest. They need to figure out, okay, do the flat guys carry the flags or do the safeties come in? They need to figure out, because Roquan was immediately yelling at the safeties after that. So to give a grade to Zach Orr, I like C plus. I think you go B against the Chiefs, B minus Raiders, and then like a D plus Cowboys. So I like a C plus. I think it'll definitely continue to improve, but this game on Sunday will be interesting to say the least.
Yeah. And I didn't exactly give a grade to that answer. I just kind of overall expressed my thoughts, but I do agree with you guys. I would say about a C plus is a good range right now for Zach Orr as far as where this defense stands going into week 4 and how great, they played through 3 weeks of football.
Yeah.
And I'll say just to, sorry, man, just
no,
to cap it off, we're also being pretty harsh critics on him just because he's fully taken out for a defense one side of the offense. Like the rushing game is literally non-existent, and they're sadly passing all over us, which is a lot more hurting. But I mean, still, it's 3 weeks. It'll get better.
Which is if you look at the matchup this week too, you can say all you want, but this Buffalo Bills team doesn't exactly match up great against this Baltimore defense because right now their strength is the running game is kind of come into play big time for the Bills and James Cook, which, the past few years wasn't really a thing, but now he's really stepping up. So, and our run defense obviously is great. But at the end of the day, it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to do Josh Allen things, and he's going to throw the ball for probably 500 yards. So yeah, it's going to be a big test because on paper, if you look at their offense against our defense this week, I would say you probably got to lean with Baltimore's defense win this matchup, but you never know in the NFL. It's a week to week game, so it's gonna be interesting. But it's a good point by Zach saying, Zach Orr is kind of and this defense have kind of completely eliminated one giant element to these offenses, and if they can limit the damage from the other half, it would be really nice, and this defense would drastically improve.
I want to add something on real quick. In the NFL right now, too, it's obvious. It's all I can't put words together. The passing offenses have kind of been less existent. Like, just kind of looking at it from like a fantasy perspective, a bunch of tight ends aren't really getting the ball. Wide receiver numbers are kind of up and down. You kind of have to have a lucky week, or in this case, go against the Ravens. So I don't know. It's kind of all over the place, and I'm pretty happy that in a league that's right now really successful with running, we've taken it away. It's just the other side of it.
Yeah. Dawson, question from Pagan_Max. How do you feel about the O-line going into this week?
Oh man, that's the victim question right there. Honestly, if you ask me right now, I feel I feel decent about it. I'm not gonna say I feel great or good about it, but I feel decent. Regarding their performance on Sunday against Dallas, they did pretty damn good, I will say. The week prior to that game, it was, oh my God, they better step up and eliminate Micah Parsons and take control of this game. And I will say they did that. They did that to a T. Derrick Henry went absolutely nuts and did Derrick Henry things, and Micah Parsons was non-existent in this game. And it was the exact same offensive line we saw the previous week against the Raiders that got absolutely manhandled. Props to Daniel Falele, had a fantastic game. Props to Andrew Voorhees, had a great game. Props to Lindy and Ronnie, of course. And I don't think Makari had a terrible game. So props to those guys, man. They had a great rebound in Dallas, and they played their ass off, and they got the respect that they deserve this week. So if you ask me right now, going up against the Bills, I think I'm encouraged by it. I don't feel great, but I do think that the Bills have the lesser of the D lines regarding who we've played the last 2 weeks in Dallas and Vegas. I don't think the Bills have an absolute game record like Micah Parsons or Max Crosby, but they got Greg Rousseau and stuff. Um, So I don't know. I'm encouraged by the offensive line. I don't feel fantastic about it, but I definitely feel a whole lot better going into this game at home against the Bills team than I did going into Dallas. Because going into Dallas against Micah Parsons, I was, along with the entire Ravens flock, very, very scared, if you would. I was nervous for what the outcome of that game was going to be.
Yeah, I feel good about the O-line right now. I won't lie. Like that was a big step in a great direction last week. I think the only thing that I can be critical on is penalties and stuff like that. We kept Lamar clean, but like at the cost of probably a few holding and hands to the face stuff. I think that can be cleaned up. But overall, I feel good about it. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to nail this name, but Rousseau, I think it is for the Bills, and Von Miller, obviously. Good luck to the Ravens offensive line. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, but we got Lamar Jackson. So no matter what, the O-line is going to look a little better than they should be. And we're going to need some really good play out of them this week, though.
I will say real quick, I did completely miss Von Miller's name, but that's just because, up until this past game, he was kind of non-existent in Buffalo the last couple of years, but he had a really good game this prior week, last night. So we're gonna see what he does. But yeah, they got two guys who could get to the quarterback, and the Ravens are in for another test.
Greg Rousseau is really, really underrated. I don't know why he's not talked about more. In terms of how I feel about the O-line, I always like to go position by position. Ronnie Stanley has been elite these first 3 games. So is Linderbaum. Voorhees, I think, has been okay. I believe that the poor play of Falele and McCary in the first 2 games took away from Voorhees not playing that well either. He was just better than them. And also being in between Stanley and Linderbaum, it's kind of hard to be noticed in a poor way if you're between those 2 guys. That's why a lot of people talk about, you hear GMs say this. You can get away with having 1 bad guard. You probably can't get away with having 2 bad guards, though. So, Falele, it almost and this is kind of why we didn't agree with having him in there. It felt like he learned so much after week 2 and going into week 3, like just from the mental side of things, picking up stunts, getting to the second level, like knowing where to pull to. And I feel like that was kind of why we didn't want him in, is because your guard should probably be learning not while he's starting in the regular season. But I guess that Harbaugh and Monken just have a lot of confidence in his ability, and they think he has a really high ceiling. So I guess they want him in there. I still think that Rosengarten is a better option than McCary, but McCary was solid on Sunday, nonetheless. I'll just say, to answer the question, I feel a lot better than I did a week ago. That still doesn't mean I feel good about it, though.
I will say, if they have a big game against Buffalo this week and have a game like they did in Dallas, and it's the same offensive line with no rotations and guys from start to the finish of the game, I will feel really good. I will feel like they've rebounded. They've kind of found some chemistry, if you would, and kind of overcame the adversity of the first couple of weeks. So if they can start stacking these quality games, specifically the right side of the offensive line, I'll feel really good about it going into Cincinnati.
Zach, we'll kick it to you for this one. This one's from JV3ZZ. Very broad question, but I think it can provoke some fun conversation about the play calling and Ravens offensive coordinators. Was Greg Roman really the problem, is what he asks.
I'm going to say in bright, flying, shining colors, yes. Yeah, he was. Todd Monken so far has been fantastic. We are very, very, very critical of him. Fans are. This last game, I think really the only real play that I was upset with was with that 1st and 10 call, 5 wide freaking crap late in the game. That's almost what I thought of was like Madden, like trying to score a lot. Madden, you're like, oh, heck yeah, let's keep it going. Come on, let's keep hearing it out. No, come on, we got to figure it out. But even then, we can't count on someone in the booth or just any coach, any player in general to have a perfect game. They're just not going to. It's football. And it was kind of not that kind of confidence with Greg Roman. We were kind of going into it thinking he needs to call a really good game. He needs to call a good game. And we don't really have those discussions anymore. It's kind of flipped the side of the field. We talk about needing Zach Orr to be good now. And Monken's just kind of been in the back seat, doing his thing. And we've been coasting.
Yeah, that's a good point, Zach. I think we're definitely far enough into the Monken era in Baltimore by now that it's noticeable that, it's very rarely is Monken the topic of the town. It's very rarely is, oh, this week Monken has to call a great game or else like every game with Greg Roman, every single game before, we're just, oh god, Greg Roman better call a good game. And through the entire game, it's Greg Roman, man, Greg Roman, Greg Roman. So very much so, I agree with Zach. I think Greg Roman was a problem. I'm not going to say it was him and nothing else. It's not like we got rid of Greg Roman and all the problems left. There's still problems, and we're seeing it with our head coach. But I think we've seen Lamar elevate as a passer, and I think we're seeing a much better Lamar Jackson right now, becoming a serious passing threat because a dude can throw the ball. I don't care what anyone says. Um, we're seeing a much better offense disperse and use its weapons. That's what he did at Georgia all his time. I mean, every weapon was utilized, and you could see Sunday in Dallas how many guys are utilized in that offense. And, it's nice to see the ball getting spread around. And I think the most important thing is there's consistency with it for the most part, with the play calling and the offense that you're seeing week to week. And, we're in year 2 now, so he's still really putting his stamp on the offense. Like it's not 1 year and it's here. Like they're gonna keep getting better. They're gonna keep gaining chemistry and building the relationship. And as long as our offense keeps scoring points, which they do, it'll only get better from here. So yeah, I think Greg Roman was a huge issue in Baltimore because it became a one identity team. I mean, there was nothing going for the Ravens. It was these teams knew how to stop the offense as long as they could plug the run, and that was about it. And that's kind of what you're seeing in Los Angeles right now with the Chargers. I mean, I think they're 31st in like passing. So he's just a running coordinator, which he's great at. But when it comes to progressing your quarterback as a passer and, you know, surrounding your offense with more weapons and utilizing them, it was never going to happen with Greg Roman. And I think Monken was a great hire for Baltimore.
Yeah, just 2 points for me to add to what you guys said. I feel like with Roman, it was very rare to have an opening drive. Well, okay, never mind. A drive after halftime, just perfectly scripted, scoring in 5 plays. I take back what I was originally going to say because it felt like for a while there in 2019, maybe 2020, we were scoring first drive almost every game with Roman. But in terms of in-game adjustments, getting a nice script out of halftime, Monken is elite. That's 2 out of the 3 games that we have scored a touchdown on our drive coming out of half. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, instead of being Roman's offense, it's Monken and Lamar's offense. When Roman was here, it was just Roman. And now, if you have an issue with the play call, half the blame is on Lamar and half the blame is on Monken. Obviously, Monken gives Lamar a play and then he has 1, maybe 2 checks he can go to. So Monken is in control. But Lamar does have the ability to check out of plays. So I just wanted to mention that. And that goes into the fact that Monken finally gave Lamar the keys to the offense. And I think that was an issue we had with Roman the whole time. Lamar didn't have the ability to audible in that offense.
He didn't have any say in the offense. It was Greg Roman's play call or nothing. And it's really nice to finally give your franchise quarterback control in the offense and allow him to kind of do what he wants, given that he agrees with the offensive coordinator's play call and decisions, of course. But yeah, it was a big issue with Greg Roman. He didn't know how to adjust, and the game passed him. And, once a team figured out how to plug the run, the Ravens would essentially just be done because they could not pass and they could not do anything other than just run, run, run. And there was no adjustments. And with Todd Monken, we've seen it almost every game. I feel like there's great offensive adjustments. If the offense is lacking in the first half, they come out in the second half and they're on fire. It's great to see, or vice versa. The adjustments are fantastic. He gave the keys to Lamar in the offense and allows Lamar to do whatever he wants. And I think that's all you can really ask for from an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and you look at Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, they're already checking plays at the line, and Lamar wasn't really allowed to do that until his 6th season, which is I
Wild.
think that's just kind of malpractice, coaching malpractice. But
That's wild.
anyway, 2 questions left. We got one big picture question and then another one kind of about the Bills game. We'll start with Zach on this. Blake Dunn, 2008. You guys confident that we can still go 12-5 or 11-6 and win the division?
Yes, I am. We have a very tough schedule, but if the Ravens can, hang around in this game, God forbid, win this game this week in Buffalo, I think that's a lot of confidence, and this instills a lot of positive thoughts moving forward that we can hang with anybody and beat anybody. So I think that, we're sitting at 1-2 right now, and I think, call me crazy, I think even with a loss, as long as you don't get blown out or absolutely embarrassed at home by the Buffalo Bills, I think you could still win plenty of games this year and make the playoffs. But you know, we have some tough games left, but for the most part, the heart of our schedule is favorable, I will say. I don't want to say it's easy because, as we can see from the Raiders game, nothing's easy in the NFL. But our schedule definitely gets more favorable after this week, I would say, because then you have, I believe, like the Cincinnati Bengals, you have the Washington Commanders, and you have the Cleveland Browns, I believe. And I'm just going to say I would imagine the Ravens are going to be favored in each of those 3 games by quite a few points. So it's definitely favorable and on our side of things, but this week is a huge, huge roadblock in the way. So it all depends on how the Ravens respond this week. But if the Ravens come out and punch the Bills in the mouth this week and win, I think the Super Bowl is back on. You're at 2-2. It's a brand new season, and you go 1-0 every week, and you just put your foot on the gas pedal and hopefully hit this, mid to late season stretch that they seem to always hit and just win, 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 and stack wins. And then before you know it, who knows, dude? You could be sitting at a 10-4 record or something like that late season. So it would be nice to see that. And we've seen it time and time again with this team. I don't see why they couldn't do it this year.
Yeah, I tend to have like weird vibe of like 2-2 with this team. Like it always kind of feels like where we're at early on, and then we kick it into gear. So if we're 2-2 after 4 weeks, so be it, But on the other hand, even if we do drop this game to the Bills, 11-6 is definitely not out of the picture. Dawson kind of nailed it with this upcoming schedule. It's kind of in our favor, but on the other hand, still teams that can beat us. I mean, if the Raiders can, then we can definitely beat ourselves and drop those games. But overall, we've got to play a good game Sunday, and I think that leads to a lot of success for the rest of the season. Whether we win or lose, if we play a really good game, a clean game, even if it's with no penalties, hardly any turnovers, and we still drop that game, I think we're still confident in the coming weeks.
We got a question here from D Money. Do you guys believe Likely and Andrews will have a big day on Sunday? Personally, there's just something about Isaiah Likely primetime that he just goes off every single time. I think, we talked about this at the post-game show. It just wasn't a tight end game on Sunday. And that's what Tom Brady was talking about a lot during the game. It just depends on what the defense throws at you. But I think the Ravens are going to try to get Likely involved early. I think Likely has a big game on Sunday. There's something about Likely under the lights.
The stars come out and the bright lights are on, dude. Isaiah Likely's a star. Under the lights for sure. I feel like every primetime game, like Brad just kind of mentioned, he always just has a huge game. I mean, he's included. He gets open and he gets so many looks. But I don't know. I don't know what this game plan is going to be against Buffalo this Sunday night. It might be a run game. I think they might just try to just keep this going strong with the offensive line and just run, and try to control the clock and win this game. And keep Josh Allen sidelined as long as you can. Keep that dude sitting right on that cold iron bench, because that's your best chance of winning this game if you do that. So, I think, man, I'm pumped for this game thinking about it. It gets me more pumped. I'm getting so excited for it. It's going to be a hell of a game. But I don't think this is going to be a game where we see Lamar Jackson come out, drop back, and throw 25, 30 passes. I think it's going to, me thinking as the fan I am, I think this game could go similar to the game against Dallas.
Just looking at the stats, they're top 10 in both rushing and tight end yards. So, I mean, sure, I think that's going to be a thing that's going to be talked about for the Ravens offense. But I'm kind of calling Andrew's number again. I feel like everyone is dogging him again, and it's a new low. Like, I think it was week 1 where we kind of were talking about, yeah, he probably needs to get going. That was really quiet. And then Raiders, he had 4 catches, 50 yards. That's how I remember him. I mean, that's all I need from him. And I think we're going to need that again this week. Likely, shoot, the dude has ice water in his veins, so I think he's going to be able to perform. It's just if that's in the cards for the Bills. If the Bills are really wanting to take away something, they need to take away the run, and it might open up a lot of pass plays for the Ravens.
I was muted, but we got Isaac Cross here. Bright lights, and it's a blackout game. The black uniforms are fire. As long as we don't drop a massive lead in the second half, of course. Yeah. Final question from When My Train Pulls In. Outside of Josh Allen, who are our biggest threats on both sides of the ball? What you got, Dawson?
Offensive side, is this a question towards who's our biggest threats?
Who
I'm
are
sorry.
you most scared of
Yes,
on the
I misread
Bills?
that question. I'm sorry about that. I misread the question. I would say for the offense, it has to be James Cook for the Buffalo Bills. James Cook has established himself as a top running back in the recent weeks, and the dude's been on an absolute tear. Going against a tough Ravens run defense, it's going to be interesting to see how they incorporate him. But I think if we can limit James Cook, I think we can set ourselves up nicely for this game. So we're going to see how that happens. Yep. I think James Cook is a big threat for real. He's a big red zone threat, and the dude can do damage, and he's a lot quicker than people think. He's got speed, and he can catch passes and run it like 40 yards downfield. So I think as far as the offense, it's James Cook. Defense, I'm probably going to go with one of the pass rushers. Just looking at their secondary, I don't think it's spectacular on paper looking at the depth chart, but I think if God forbid, they got 2, they got Gregory Rousseau and Von Miller. I think if one of those guys gets going and gets going early, I think it could be dangerous for the Ravens just because obviously we know about this offensive line right now. I don't know. Does Von Miller primarily line up on the left tackle side of the football?
I think he's usually complete guess, but I saw him get a sack as the left end, so right tackle side, but I don't know if he goes everywhere or if he's a side type
I
of guy.
feel like every time I watch the Bills game, I feel like I see Von Miller hovering over the left tackle. So we'll see. I would hope Roddy Stanley is on Von Miller, but I think offensive side of the ball, it's got to be James Cook, and then I think defensive side, I'm probably going to go with Von Miller because he's had a sack in all 3 games I think so far. So he's kind of establishing himself as he's still here. He's a veteran guy. He can get it done. So if we can limit the damage they can do, from our offensive line to their pass rush, I think we'll be okay.
I know the question says outside of Josh Allen, but I'm serious. I'm not going outside of Josh Allen. I mean, that is the main guy to watch in this game. Like, he's either going to win this game or Lamar Jackson is going to win this game. Like, it's really that close of a matchup. I know we're favored right now. I'm impressed with how the Bills are playing, but it is all Josh Allen right now. Like, he is an MVP candidate right now. He'd win the award if it was called freaking right now. I mean, I don't want to take it outside of Josh Allen. And then on the other side, this is kind of going to be like a little wild card. This is kind of going to like the blank card here. Our biggest threat is Justin Tucker. I think there's a lot of points going to be scored in this game, and Justin Tucker is going to have to be clutch. This technique thing that we heard about from Harbaugh saying it's a technique issue is just kind of puzzling to me. I don't know why Justin Tucker would have a technique issue unless it involved other people on the team, whether that's, long snapper or Stout holding it. I'm confused by it, but it's got to be in Justin Tucker's hands. I feel like this game is going to be a lot of points, and we're going to need Tucker here.
It's a good point, Zach. I like that.
It is interesting about Tucker, and that is a good point, Zach. the struggle kind of started with Stout becoming the new holder. And that can have a big impact on a kicker. With when you have one holder for what,
Like 20 years.
10 years about?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it probably takes some getting used to. So I don't know. I saw a video on Twitter about it showed Sam Cook's holding and then Jordan Stout's holding, and they definitely look a little bit different. So that could be part of it. In terms of threats on the Bills, it kind of just be repeating what you guys said. James Cook. Although I will say, Ravens have struggled with after holding Kelsey to a very quiet game, very much struggled with Bowers, and then struggled with Jake Ferguson. And the Bills have Dalton Kincaid, who has been making a lot of plays recently, and he might be the Ravens' kryptonite on Sunday night. Dawson has Kincaid. Probably said it right as I did. So we're in lockstep right there. I think it'll be tough to defend Kincaid. He's a great player, and maybe the Ravens hold out James Cook with that run defense, even though James Cook has a lot of involvement in the passing game.
Name to watch too. Khalil Shakir lately has been tearing it up with Buffalo. That dude's a fast little receiver. You got to watch out for him. He's pretty good, man. He's come out of nowhere. He's come out of the scene, and he's really the number one target right now in Buffalo.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely as for defense, they still do have Dawson Knox. So they got, another duo there that Ravens are gonna have to take care of over the middle. They got to get that cleaned up with the linebackers and safeties defending the middle of the field. I saw a chart that Dak was almost every completion was over the middle of the field. So yeah. You guys have any final thoughts here?
I just want to agree with Zach. I think, unfortunately, I think in this game, a missed field goal will lose Baltimore this game. So Tucker's got to be money, dude. We love the guy, but what he's done the last couple of weeks is unacceptable, and he's gonna need to be sharp this Sunday, man. Because I think a missed field goal is gonna go a long way in this game, and I think the spread's like 3.5 or something. I don't know. I might be completely wrong.
The Ravens are favored.
2.5. Yeah,
2.5.
So exactly. So they're expecting this to be a field goal game, which is crazy. So I think a missed field goal, man, could blow this for Baltimore, and hopefully, the Ravens still have the trust in them. I hopefully, if it's 45 yards, they send him out there, 50 yards. I hope they can still send him out there, because he obviously can still kick the ball, to the moon. It's just his accuracy right now is way off, and the timing or whatever it is, the mechanical issue. But anything like that's going to go a long way in this game.
Yeah, I agree. Zach, you got anything to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. Yeah, that's it for us tonight, guys. Appreciate you for tuning in. Christian from Australia, appreciate you being here. Don Royal, D Money as always. Isaac Cross. Let's see, and then Dawson Hess. Appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you guys later.